Alafia, everyone. Welcome to 2025. This is going to be how to cancel yourself. This will also be the first installment of my new outlet, my new podcast called The Meat. Is going to be all the things we're not allowed to talk about in spirituality. And I'm so excited to be sharing this with you guys because I finally decided that I'm just fucking tired. I'm tired of everything. I've been in this industry for going on 8 years, and I'm just so excited to talk about all the taboo things that we say we're not allowed to talk about. And I'm so excited to build more community with you guys. But you guys already know from the title, how to cancel yourself in 2025. Woo! Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Now, you probably already clicked on this. If you didn't see my whole TikTok series on this, you probably already clicked on this because you might be a little scared of being canceled. You might be a little scared of people finding out something about you. Shit, you might even just be scared of being perceived a certain way, of people not liking you for a certain reason. You might be scared of being your true self, all those things. And to be honest, what inspired this space, The Meat, as well as what inspired this video was I've been teaching Genesis for like a month and a half maybe now, and it's probably one of the most, I say that about every course that I teach, but it's probably one of the most rewarding things rewarding things I've ever done, because teaching people how to integrate their shadow and teaching people how to really love themselves and love all their dark sides. Every time you teach, you initiate yourself deeper into these concepts. And so from that space, Genesis birthed The Meat. From all the times that I had to really learn how to become bulletproof of my authenticity, that birthed The Meat, and all those things came together to then birth also this video. So I have 7 points for you in my chicken scratch handwriting. If you're just curious about how my handwriting looks, yeah, it's that bad. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I have 7 points for you of how to cancel yourself. And actually, before I get to those 7 points, I want to talk about what this really means. So, and if you guys can't tell, I'm a little sick, but how to cancel yourself. When we think about canceling people, or, when people get canceled on social media, many times we have these instances like Diddy, like R. Kelly, but there's only one Diddy and there's only one R. Kelly, and there are people who are doing a lot of harm in the world. So when we're talking about those kind of things, we're not talking about things as in perpetual harm and things against humanity and life. We're not talking about those. We're talking about mistakes that you've made. We're talking about, deep-rooted shame that you may have about different things in your life. Like, for example, I used to have a lot of deep-rooted shame about my anger issues and about being arrested and about being homeless and all those other kind of things that happened to me in 2018, the top of 2018. But, when we talk about cancellation, talk about people, being a bad person or doing this or doing that, or even like doing something really fucking bad and serving your time for it and deciding to say, hey, I'm gonna move on with my life. What canceling yourself really is, it's deciding to take back the narrative. It's deciding to say yes to accepting yourself, to loving yourself because of these things. Not seeing certain parts of yourself as worthy of love, not just seeing these different, societal check marks. Oh, I'm selfless, I'm this, I'm that. Like, just saying, I'm going to include all these other things that I know that I am, and I'm going to include that in my reasons why I'm deciding to love myself. And I'm not letting anybody else, define what love and acceptance is for me. And so what canceling yourself really is, it's deciding to let go of that shadow. It's deciding to let go of the shame. It's deciding to let go of all the ways that other people try to tell you that you should be, that you should think, that you should act, and just decide to be fucking bulletproof. If you canceled yourself first, then no one else can cancel you after. If you broke the story first, then you control the narrative. If you're completely authentic, then no one else can say anything crazy about you. Because the thing here is, when we feel a lot of shame or when we're scared of being authentic, we're not scared of people finding out something about us. We're scared of people finding out something that we don't know about ourselves and putting ourselves on blast, or putting us on blast because of this thing that we don't know about ourselves, and we feel really exposed. But if we're able to just know ourselves, understand ourselves, fully accept ourselves, see all these different aspects of ourselves, and decide to say yes, accepting all, then there's nothing that anyone can spring up against you that is going to hurt you in any way. And when people try to call you something that you're not, it's just kind of funny because you already know who you are. But this thing of shame, it perpetuates a surface level understanding of ourselves. We feel so much shame, so we don't want to dive deeper into really what's beneath the surface. You know, we feel so much shame, so we don't want to really understand ourselves. We just want to kind of avoid ourselves. And then there's like this huge, like uncomfortable conflict that happens within yourself of like, I'm here, but I hate myself. I'm here, but I don't want to be loved. I'm here. It's like this whole big thing. When you cancel yourself, you lay that shit all down. So that is really what canceling yourself is. Breaking the story, controlling the narrative, not in a way of like control, but in a way of like, this is everything about me and now I'm free. Same way when you come out, you're not scared of people calling you gay. That's a very, very simple example. So another reminder that I am sick. My voice sounds kind of weird, or I'm getting over a sickness. My voice sounds kind of weird, but we're here right now and I'm so happy to be here with you. So number one, the first way to cancel yourself, number one, is to stop lying. Now, this is the major way to become authentic. I think people have this whole conversation about authenticity, and we think about authenticity as like big and bright and bold and funny and da-da-da-da. And the fact of the matter is that's not everybody's form of authenticity. I remember when I led the, Power of Presence retreat in Thailand this past year. So many of you guys came on that retreat. You actually see the video about that retreat on my channel here. But when I led that retreat, I remember someone said, oh my gosh, I thought that you would be so different. Like I thought that you would be so loud and da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, wow, that's so funny, because just because I am bold and loud some days doesn't mean I'm going to be like that every day. And authenticity is honoring how you feel, no longer lying about it. It would have actually been inauthentic for me to be screaming every second of the day, because that's just not me. That's just not me. So you have to understand that authenticity really is just about deciding to not lie. And so the first way that you cancel yourself, or you begin to unmask this whole like persona that you created from shame, is by deciding to not lie anymore. By saying, okay, I'm gonna be honest. How many times do I lie throughout the day? This is even when you go to a restaurant. Someone asks you how the food is and you say it's good even though you don't really like it. Or when someone asks you how you are and you say, oh, I'm good, how are you? Let's stop fucking lying. Let's be honest. Oh, I'm cold. It doesn't have to be this whole long trauma dump thing if someone asks you how you are. You can just say, oh, right now I'm cold. I'm ready to be at this workout. Or I'm da-da-da. You can make it short and sweet, but just make more of an effort to stop lying to other people, and as well, stop lying to yourself. 2024, I shed so much. And it was a 4-year for me. For you guys who are in numerology, it was a builder year for me. And in that process of building, what really happened is I was able to shed a lot of things that I thought were supportive, or that I thought, I wanted. And I was able to let go of them. A lot of friendships, a lot of relationships. And the fact of the matter is I was lying to myself a lot. Like, oh no, but I love them. I da-da-da-da. No, I didn't love them. I tried to convince myself that I loved them because I didn't want to be alone. But the moment that I decided to be honest, like actually this person has really weird energy towards me, is actually kind of strangely jealous. And at the same time, it's just like, they just treat me in a way that doesn't feel good for me. The way that the moment that I was able to be honest about that aspect, and stop lying to myself about so much, was the moment that I was able to like break free from just pretending with myself and with other people. And when you stop lying to yourself, it doesn't mean that you have to discard all of the relationships that you have. It just means that you begin to approach them differently. It doesn't mean that you have to throw away your friendships. It just means that you're no longer lying in them. And when you have this sense of, healthy unattachment, look, I love you, or I love this relationship, but I'm no longer gonna lie, and you decide how you're going to receive that. What ends up happening is there's a natural cleansing and clearing that happens. And that authenticity that you start to present through just not lying becomes a beautiful filter over so many different aspects of your life. When you no longer lie to yourself either, or also about what you want, about what you desire, what ends up happening is you do the first step to receiving more which is just accepting that you're worthy. Sometimes we lie to ourselves because we teach ourselves that this is all that we deserve. This is what we should say yes to. This is what we should settle for. And sometimes we stop lying a little bit and we get to that next level and we think, oh my God, it's so good here. But then you lie to yourself of like, I can deal with this abuse, or I can deal with this aspect of the relationship because all these other things are good. But in reality, any area that you're lying to yourself just creates another level of misalignment with your life and with your destiny, with your blessings. And so the moment that you stop lying to yourself about your relationships, about how you feel, about what you want, about your desires, stop shaming yourself for the things that you desire. 2024 was the last year that you shamed yourself for your desires. When you really get into that space, it's a lot easier for you to begin to receive more, because that lying that you're doing, it's a whole wall. It builds a literal wall between you and your manifestations. Number 2, this literally brings us to number 2, which is no longer settling and calling it gratitude. I'm going to repeat that because I know that may be a big shift for people. No longer settling and calling it gratitude. Now, what I mean by this is, in the spiritual industry, in the spiritual community especially, we do this thing where we're just like, okay, I'm just going to be grateful. I'm just going to be grateful. Even though I'm not stable and I don't have the money that I need to sustain myself, I'm going to be grateful. Because if I just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and believing, then money will come. That's not how that works. There's 3 types of magic: white magic, red magic, and black magic. White magic is that magic of will, is that magic of I want. I see, I envision. Just believe. But in order to bring anything to fruition, you have to have those other 2 types of magic, red magic and black magic. And what red magic is that magic of sacrifice and surrender, right? Now, if you're in indigenous religion, specifically in Ifa, which is the religion that I practice, sacrifice is a huge part of it. That's one of the reasons why I'm calling this space. I'm going to put it on Spotify so you can listen to it outside of YouTube. But one of the reasons why I'm calling this space the meat is because one of the things that we're not allowed to talk about in spirituality, and one of the white elephants in the room when it comes to talking about Ifa, is animal sacrifice and is eating meat and not being vegan or vegetarian. But Ifa is based a lot on sacrifice and surrender. If we want to change the energy that we're experiencing, you will have to give an offering. And not every time is it going to be a goat, but sometimes it's going to be cowrie shell. Sometimes it's going to be gin. Sometimes it's going to be palm oil. Sometimes it's going to be OT. And so we have that white magic of I want, I will. And then we have that red magic of surrender. And what surrender really allows us to do is it allows us to give up something that we have in order to push our will forward. And so maybe what you need to give up is time. Maybe what you need to give up is something that is not really serving you. Maybe that shit is weed or alcohol or whatever the case is. You want to give it up because you'll have more space to receive the thing that you desire. And now when we talk about black magic is running towards your fears, saying yes to your fears. Black magic is really shadow work. Now, black magic is any magic that's based on fear. So if you're thinking, oh my God, black magic, she must be talking about hexing and X and Y and Z. Black magic is definitely includes the hexing if you want to try to exert your will on somebody else. We're not talking about that so much. What we're actually talking about is the black magic you could do on yourself. That's when you look for your fears and sacrifice them up as an offering. Run towards them. Go straight into what you've been avoiding. And so the fear here is maybe I'm not worthy enough to go for something else that's going to give me more money. The sacrifice here is starting to say no to the job that is only going to have a certain ceiling when it comes to earning. Maybe the fear here that you need to sacrifice is that no one's going to listen to me long enough for me to have a stable business. No one's gonna, deem me good enough to be a teacher. The sacrifice is your cringe. The red magic here is your cringe. The red magic here is embarrassment. But every time we follow our cringe, we get a little bit bigger in our aura because we accept more and more of ourselves. It's cringy because you feel that embarrassment of what someone else might think about you. But the more and more that you run towards that embarrassment, what other people think about you becomes obsolete. And so sometimes we can settle and call it gratitude because we've convinced ourselves that that's all that we deserve. Spiritual people are so bad about this, especially when it comes to money. I know that you say you're abundant and prosperous, but if you're not stable, how can you really be abundant? Let's start to build stability within ourselves, knowing that it's not just about money. It's about value and seeing the value within yourself. and seeing the worth in yourself. That's the first thing. When it comes to making more money, it's just about seeing yourself as more valuable. You're more than just a piece of the pawn in the system. You're more than just the job or the title that you've given yourself. If you're listening to this, you probably have a vision. You probably have a dream that wants to be birthed through you. So how can you start to say yes to that dream and vision? Start to find value within yourself. Start to say yes to the vision that you see within. That's how you stop settling. That sacred yes, that desire for receiving just has to do with being more receptive. And being more receptive means really saying yes to your worthiness, saying yes to what you know you deserve. It's not about wanting more for the sake of wanting more. It's about saying yes to what you know you're worthy of. And before we move forward, you settling and calling it gratitude, no longer doing that is canceling yourself, because you're gonna start to cancel out a lot of the things in your life that you know you don't really want, that you know you've been settling for. And so this act of canceling yourself is really dismantling a lot of the things in your life that you know damn well don't really have a place, right? That you know damn well you've just been settling for. Even that fucking situationship that you've been trying to convince yourself, maybe if I wait long enough, they'll be ready. You deserve a lot more than that, babe. So it's time to stop settling. Number 3, how to cancel yourself is by saying yes to all the worst things that people could ever say about you. Now, this is one of the most potent and powerful authenticity teachings that I've ever taught, that I've ever learned as well. And it helped me, learning this, helped me dismantle probably about 8 years of shame that I was carrying on my back, right? Saying yes. Understanding that this world is not black and white, right or wrong, good and evil. That's the first level of thinking. The second level of thinking is being able to hold statements of and. And so when someone tells you that you're too sensitive, when someone tells you that you're the villain, when someone tells you that you're the worst person in the world, understanding, I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this, understanding that can very well be true, babe. It could be true. Why are we fighting against somebody else in their world when you can just look at the yin and yang symbol? There's a little bit of white in the black part and there's a little black in the white part. We can just say yes to all perspectives, all things. This is so hard for people who have a lot of shame. This is so hard for people who judge other people very harshly. But when you can say, yes, maybe I am the worst person in the world, it stops having power over you. And you start to cancel the carefully curated version of yourself that has been created from what other people want you to be. So find those worst things that people can say about you and just start to say yes to them. And notice how that makes you feel. If you could start to say yes to those things, then it no longer has a punch when someone else calls you that. Because you understand that something that can be true in somebody else's world can be very false in your world. And you begin to live in that realm of acceptance and neutrality. Same thing with compliments. You can accept them and also know that the other end of the spectrum can be very equally true. Bulletproof authenticity is living in that space of acceptance and neutrality and understanding that you're still the shit, right? You can say yes to all the worst things that people have to say about you. Just yes, 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 yes. And say yes to all the best things that people can say about you, yes. And you live in the middle. Because when you live in the middle, you're not pulled by your emotions. You're not so affected by what other people have to say because you've accepted that everything could be true. And what now? The only way you can truly cancel yourself, when we're talking about the way that we previously have understood it before this video, is if you decide to eat the shame and judgment that other people try to give you. But when you have no shame, when you don't judge yourself and you're just neutral to a lot of the things that other people tell you should think about yourself, you become bulletproof. So say yes. Cancel that mask that you've been living under by saying yes. Yes. So much shame that I lived in was really this feeling of resistance that I was having. Oh my God, there's no way that I can be as bad as they said that I was. Oh my God, am I? I'm so scared. I was so scared. But then when I said, yeah, I am. And right? And this brings us to the fourth point of how to cancel yourself, is dissolving dualistic thinking. So really step into this world of and. Step into this world of paradox. You can be the worst person and the best person at the same time. And also the way that you begin to cancel yourself is by obliterating all the boxes that you've been living in because of dualistic thinking. For example, I can't be spiritual and go out. I can't be spiritual and like to drink. I can't be spiritual and be queer. I can't be a coach and make mistakes. All these kind of things, all the ways that we have pigeonhole ourselves, put ourselves in these small ass boxes, when you begin to cancel that old version of you and start to hold more space for you come into a beautiful space of self-acceptance. You come into a beautiful space of, it's all true and I'm still the shit. Can you repeat that after me? I am still the shit. I am still the shit. It's all true and I am still the shit. If you can find every way to hold both ends of the spectrum, to hold all of the things that you're so afraid of admitting to yourself, holding them in an and, holding them on a two-ended totem pole, really, then you have more strength in your heart to come into a deep state of acceptance. And only in acceptance is there peace. Peace is not trying to change anything about yourself. Love is not trying to change anything about yourself. It's acceptance. And just because you've accepted that you've done some terrible things in the past doesn't mean you're always going to do them in the future. In the Anahata, we learn that through acceptance, there is transformation. But the more we resist these things and these parts of ourselves, the more that they continue to act subconsciously. This is where shadow possession comes in. Well, when we push these things away, they come up subconsciously over and over and over again because they're tired of being suppressed. The very thing that you're avoiding ends up consuming you. But when you turn around and accept them and hold more space for you start to expand into this bigger version of you who is erotic. And what eroticism really is, I've talked about this before, but what eroticism really is, it's being fully present. And when you're present with all versions of yourself and you hold this space for and dissolve dualistic thinking, you cancel the version of you who's been created out of shame and eating other people's judgment. That's the fourth step. The fifth step to canceling yourself is rerouting your relationship with jealousy. Now, jealousy is only, you guys who have read Black Moon and who are taking Genesis, and you can take Genesis too if you want. You're just going to be watching those recordings, which are very obviously amazing. But if you really want to reroute jealousy, and actually, let me go back. The only time that jealousy is a problem in life ever is when we stop at the feeling of jealousy. When we're feeling that feeling of jealousy and we stop right there and we shame ourselves for feeling the feeling of jealousy. If we were to go a little bit deeper and realize that jealousy is just a call from within to water something that deeply wants to be expressed. Jealousy is just a call from within to step into a part of yourself that you've suppressed. That's all that it is. We can use it as an inner compass to become a more alive and erotic version of ourselves. For example, you may be really jealous of that girl who's very fit and has this whole aesthetic and seems so beautiful and so perfect. And know that that's the surface. Underneath, what you're really jealous of is her ability to put herself forward and develop a lot more, or dedicate a lot more time to herself and her self-care. And so the moment that you start to become the things that you're really jealous of other people for, that jealousy dissolves. It's not about the fitness or the perfection. It's about the time and the self-love and the self-devotion that you begin to develop when you say, I give myself permission to become the thing that I'm jealous of. I'm gonna take more time out on my hygiene and nourishing my body and nourishing my skin. I'm gonna take more time in the shower. I'm gonna make this a ritual. That's the surface level of it, is that jealousy, what we think we're jealous of. Underneath it all, you're not jealous of her money. You're jealous of her work ethic. You're jealous of his discipline. You're not jealous of her platform. You're jealous of her ability to be authentic. And you're jealous of how people love her when she's authentic. But in reality, people can only love you when you're authentic, because people can't even know you if you're not really being yourself. And so there's always something underneath it that you're searching for. There's always something underneath it that you want to water within yourself. And so when you're able to say yes to yourself, you reroute this relationship with jealousy, and your feelings of jealousy and envy, they just begin to change. You have such a more deep relationship with yourself, because you realize that there's so many different things in the external reality that's really just a mirror for being more and more present and expanding into more and more versions of yourself, and this deeper evolution of you. And when you reroute your relationship with jealousy, what also begins to happen is you cancel the version of you who's just been living in a shell of what you think that you can be. If you begin to entertain your envy and start to become the things that you see other people embodying, like you, not like them, but in the way that you're supposed to do them, you cancel the version of yourself who's fucking scared. you cancel the version of yourself who's living in that mask of inauthenticity, and you step fully into who you truly are. Step 6 on how to cancel yourself is by forgiving yourself. And we've touched a little bit on this before, but I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into this in a different lens than you may have ever heard it. Self-forgiveness really is not this huge thing of like these step-by-step processes, right? I know I've done videos on it before, but I'm gonna be really honest and give you a shortcut here. The easiest way to begin to forgive yourself is to hold more space for and. And the reason why canceling yourself or forgiving yourself is canceling yourself is because when you don't forgive yourself, your persona and who you present yourself to be is just a shell of shame. It's a shell of self-judgment. So you cancel that version of yourself when you forgive yourself. This is how you forgive yourself in the simplest and easiest way. You hold space for and. I did that thing. I fucked up. I made that mistake, and I'm worthy of love. Can you make that and statement and just sit with it for a moment here? Can you hold space for both of those? Sorry. Can you hold space for both of those versions of yourself? Just say and to both those things, right? I did this and I'm still worthy of forgiveness. I made that mistake and I'm still doing better now. Doesn't mean that we keep making that mistake over and over again. And even if you did, hey, decide right now, this day to be the day that you fucking change that shit. But you have to hold more space for and in your life. Again, this world of dualistic thinking is the first level of thinking, but the next level, when you graduate beyond dualism, you come closer to God, because God is really unconditional love and unconditional acceptance. God is and. So you start to see yourself the way that God sees you by holding more space for and, which inevitably creates more space for acceptance, okay? And the last way that you cancel yourself, this is the last thing because it all builds on top of each other, but the last way that you cancel yourself is by saying all the things that you think that you're not allowed to say. That is the only way to find your true voice. The only way, I'm going to repeat that, the only way to find your true voice is by saying all the things that you think that you're not allowed to say. See, after you've gone through the and, after you've accepted all the worst things that people can say about you, become neutral to them, after you've come into the space of forgiving yourself, all that is so fucking healing. And then you get to the space where you start to say all the things that you're not allowed to say, quote unquote. That's how you begin to cancel that old, scared, fearful version of you. You start to discover your authenticity by asking, what are the things that I feel like I'm not allowed to talk about? And being really fucking honest about them. And then you'll be very surprised about what starts to come forward. I hope you enjoyed. I wore my cancel, if you guys can see, I'm wearing my cancel tank top right now. I'm also giving you Professor Umbridge realness with all this pink, and I intend to continue to serve this throughout the year. Love pink. But name, if you have anything else, name in the comments, what's one way that you're going to cancel yourself this year? Maybe you're going to cancel yourself by deciding to be more disciplined. And maybe in the past, you've convinced yourself that you don't deserve to be more disciplined or that you can't be more disciplined. I'm going to cancel that version of me who says, I just can't do that. I just can't do this. I just can't do that. If I know I have a call within to do something, I'm going to say yes to it. I'm going to do it the way that feels the best for me. And I'm going to start to cancel that version of myself who doesn't believe in myself. So how are you canceling yourself this year? How are you breaking out of the mold this year? How are you stepping fully into your authenticity? Put it in the comments. I love you guys so very much. And don't forget to join the newsletter because there's so much coming. Adabo.